The courtroom was packed, every seat filled with journalists, clerks, interns, and ordinary citizens who had stood in line since dawn. The high ceiling of the chamber, with its polished wood panels and echoing chandeliers, created an atmosphere that seemed to swallow every breath. On the bench sat Judge Amy Coney Barrett, her gaze calm, her demeanor steady, as though carved from patience itself. Papers rested neatly before her, but her attention was fixed on the arguments being presented. On the other side stood Pam Bondi, once the fiery Attorney General of Florida, now representing a high-profile case that had drawn national attention. She was known for her sharp tongue, her ability to charm a jury with theatrics, and a confidence that often bordered on arrogance. The morning had already been long. The back and forth between counsel had been fierce, but when Pam Bondi rose again, her voice carried the energy of someone who thrived on spectacle. She strutted to the center of the courtroom, heels clicking against the marble floor, flashing a smile that seemed to dare the judge to challenge her. She launched into her argument, weaving metaphors, tossing in rhetorical flourishes, and gesturing with her hands in sweeping arcs. Some in the gallery leaned forward, entertained more than enlightened. Pam knew it and played to it, pausing for effect, her blonde hair catching the overhead lights. Then came a moment that silenced the room. Pam Bondi, in her crescendo, directed a remark toward Judge Barrett herself, cloaked in politeness but dripping with condescension. "And with all due respect, Your Honor, perhaps this court does not fully grasp the intricacies of how the law applies here. It takes a certain practical wisdom, something not easily gained from the ivory tower." She gave a small laugh, sharp and cutting, letting it linger in the air as if she had just scored a winning point. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Some gasped quietly, others stifled chuckles of disbelief. Pam Bondi was laughing at a sitting judge, and not just any judge, but Amy Coney Barrett, who had heard tougher words in the Senate confirmation hearings and faced the harshest scrutiny under brighter lights. Judge Barrett tilted her head slightly, her lips pressing into a line that betrayed neither anger nor embarrassment. She folded her hands slowly, deliberately, and leaned forward. The hush in the chamber deepened, the kind of silence that made every heartbeat sound louder. "Ms. Bondi," Judge Barrett said evenly, her tone steady yet imbued with the weight of authority, "this court is not an audience, and you are not on a stage. If you find yourself tempted to reduce your argument to mockery, I would suggest you reconsider your purpose here." Pam smirked, unfazed, and replied, "Your Honor, I assure you, my purpose is clarity. But sometimes clarity requires." She gave another small laugh, a little reality check. At that, Judge Barrett straightened her posture. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't need to. Her response was measured, her words chosen like arrows aimed at the very center of Bondi's bravado. "Ms. Bondi, the law is not theater, and reality is not found in derision. You may laugh at this court, but you cannot laugh away precedent. You may find humor in the responsibilities we bear here, but there is nothing amusing about the rights of the people who depend on this system. This is not about your performance. This is about justice." The words struck like a hammer. The courtroom, already silent, seemed to grow smaller, more intimate, as every eye turned toward Pam. Her smirk faltered for the first time. She shifted her weight from one heel to the other, her hands twitching slightly at her sides. But Judge Barrett wasn't finished. "You spoke of wisdom. Wisdom is not measured in applause or headlines. It is measured in humility. The humility to listen, the humility to serve, the humility to know that the law does not bend to theatrics. If you wish to practice performance, there are theaters in this city more suited to your talents. But in this court, what matters is truth." Pam's face reddened. The air she had carried into the room, so buoyant with self-assurance, began to drain. Her voice, when she tried to respond, cracked just slightly. "Your Honor, I did not mean." Judge Barrett raised a hand, not harshly but firmly, a gesture that brought her words to an end. "I do not seek your apologies, Ms. Bondi. I seek your respect, for this institution, for the law, and for yourself. Because when you choose mockery, you diminish all three." For a moment, Pam stood frozen, lips parted but no words forming. A shift occurred in the gallery, reporters scribbling furiously, some spectators shaking their heads, others exchanging glances as though they had just witnessed a turning point. Pam tried again, but her voice wavered. I only intended." She stopped herself, realizing anything further might unravel her completely. The silence stretched. Judge Barrett returned to her papers, calm as ever, as though the storm had passed. But for Pam Bondi, the storm was only beginning inside her. She sat back down, hands trembling slightly as she reached for her glass of water. Her throat tightened, her eyes stung unexpectedly. She blinked hard, trying to compose herself, but the sting became tears. They welled up and spilled before she could stop them. Pam quickly lifted a hand to her face, but the cameras, silent, ever present, had already caught the shift from laughter to tears. She tried to mask it, tilting her head downward, but the motion only made the trembling in her shoulders more visible. Judge Barrett did not gloat. She did not smile. She simply let the moment settle, an unspoken reminder that dignity speaks louder than derision. Minutes ticked by. The proceedings continued, arguments resumed, but for Pam, the words blurred into a hum she could barely follow. Her earlier laughter echoed back at her now, hollow and cruel, and the tears she tried to suppress betrayed her vulnerability. No one had expected Pam Bondi to cry in open court, least of all herself. Yet there she was, reduced not by ridicule, but by a quiet, unwavering reminder of what the law demanded: humility, respect, and truth. As the gavel finally struck to adjourn for the day, the crowd filed out slowly, buzzing with the story they had just witnessed. Pam remained seated for a moment, gathering her things in silence, the weight of the moment pressing down. Across the chamber, Judge Barrett rose gracefully, her presence steady, her expression unreadable, but her words lingering in every corner of the courtroom. Pam finally stood, eyes rimmed with red, avoiding the cameras now flashing furiously. She had laughed once, confident and untouchable, but the laughter had dissolved into something far different. She walked out of the courtroom with her head slightly bowed, the echo of Judge Barrett's response still ringing in her ears. It was not the outcome she had expected, nor the spectacle she had intended, but it was one she would never forget. And for those who had witnessed it, the story would be retold again and again: how Pam Bondi laughed at Judge Amy Coney Barrett, and how the judge's calm, unshakable words had broken her defenses until she cried, not from humiliation alone, but from the undeniable truth of being reminded what justice really meant.